Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I'm Juan the Yarn Addict, and today I present to you the Majestic Ridges Scarf. So this here is the Majestic Ridges Scarf. Let me give you a closer view of the scarf. There it is. This here is a 6-row repeat that I repeated 7 times for a total of 42 rows. The yarn I chose was LionBrand Scarfie in the colorway Eggplant Taupe. Here is a closer view of the yarn. This eggplant color here is my favorite color. That is why I chose this yarn. So feel free to use whatever yarn you'd like. You don't have to use a bulky 5 like I did. Use a DK weight or a worsted weight or even a super bulky. It's completely up to you. This 6-row repeat does work regardless of the weight of yarn. I do suggest that you follow the recommended hook size for the yarn of your choice as a starting point. If you want more drape, hook up. If you want less drape, hook down. So that is pretty much all there is to it. Let me just give you another close-up bird's eye view. And as you can see, those ridges are very pronounced. Super, super nice. And this is the back, which also has ridges, but not so pronounced. Very, very nice. So this is super easy to work up. It's very fast. There's a lot of autopilot happening. So let's go ahead and jump into this tutorial. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and maybe leave a comment or two. I would definitely appreciate the support. So without further ado, let's jump right into that tutorial. Okay, so to get started, what we need to do is create a slip knot on our hook. However you do this is absolutely fine. This is how I do it. From here, what we want to do is chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. From here, what we want to do is take the tip of our crochet hook and go into our first chain, draw up a loop, and slip to close. We're going to gently tug on our working yarn and pinch our tail against the chain, and as you can see, there is a circle that has formed. We're going to work our stitches out of that circle. So from here, we're going to chain 2, and the chain 2 does not count as a stitch, it just elevates us to the first row. And so from here, what we want to do is insert 4 double crochets, chain 2, 4 double crochets. Yarn over, go in, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. And we're going to do that 3 more times. So from here, we have 4 double crochets. We're now going to chain 2. And we're going to go back into our circle here with 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for our first row, we have 4 double crochets, chain 2, 4 double crochets. From here, we are going to chain 2, which will never count as a stitch for this entire project. Chain 2 and turn our work. For row 2, we are going to do a series of double crochet 2 together. So for our very first stitch here, we're going to insert 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. In the next 2 stitches, we will double crochet 2 together. So we're going to yarn over, go into the stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2. We're going to come next door here, yarn over, go into that next stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and you should have 3 loops remaining on your hook. From here, you're going to yarn over and go through all 3 loops, chain 1, and move on to the next stitch. So from here, we're at the apex. The top part of this chain space is called the apex. And we're going to insert a double crochet 2 together in the next 2 stitches here. So we're going to go into this last stitch, and then we're going to go into the apex. So we're going to yarn over, go into the last stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and then from here we're going to go into our chain space, our apex. We're going to yarn over, go in, draw up a loop, yarn over, and go through 2. And once again, you should have 3 loops on your hook. From here, you're going to yarn over and go through all 3 loops, just like that. From here, you're going to chain 2, and we're going to repeat this on the other side. So half of our double crochet 2 together will be from inside of this apex going into the first stitch of the side. So we're going to yarn over and go into our apex, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through 2. We're going to come right next door here and do the same thing. Yarn over, go in, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through 2. You should have 3 loops remaining on your hook. From here, you're going to yarn over and go through all 3, chain 1, and move on to the next 2 stitches. We're going to repeat that. Double crochet 2 together. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through all 3, chain 1, and you should have 1 stitch remaining of the side there. In that last stitch, you're going to insert 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And so that's what it looks like here after 2 rows. From here, what we want to do is chain 2 and turn our work. For this next row, we are going to do a series of double crochets. So in the very first stitch, we're going to insert 3 double crochets, and that will be the constant. The very first and very last stitch of every row will receive 3 stitches. So in this case, it is 3 double crochets. From here, the next 2 stitches will also receive double crochets. Next door here, we have a chain space. That chain space will also receive a double crochet. So for this row, every stitch, every chain space will receive a double crochet. With this double crochet 2 together, that counts as 1 stitch, so only 1 double crochet will go into the top there, right here. Next door is a chain space that receives a double crochet as well. This double crochet 2 together will only receive 1 double crochet because it's together. Now we have arrived at the apex. So in the apex, we will go ahead and do 1 double, chain 2, and 1 double, just like that, okay? Now if we look at this side, this is a double crochet 2 together, but because it was on the flip side there, it ended with that chain stitch right there. So because of that, we have to consider that as a stitch. So on this side, we need to put a second double crochet because every stitch in every chain gets a double crochet, okay? So from there, we're going to go ahead and do 1 on top of the double crochet 2 together. We're going to insert a double in the chain, in that chain space. Next door here, we have a double crochet 2 together that will receive 1 double. And in the next 2 stitches, we will do 1 double crochet. Just like that. Now in this last stitch, we will insert 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And so this is what it looks like after 3 rows. Very, very nice. And it's very flat, which is kind of unusual as we build out our project so early on. Usually there's twists and turns and things, but this is nice. So from here, we're going to go ahead and chain 2 and turn our work. So for row number 4, we're going to do a series of front post double crochets. So in the very first stitch, as always, 3 double crochets. That's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. So from here, we're going to go into the second stitch right in between my thumbs. We're going to go down and around. Well, first we're going to yarn over, come down and around the stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. That is a front post double crochet. And we're going to continue doing that to every stitch of the side here. Yarn over, come down and around, go through 2, go through 2, just like that. So continue doing that, and now we'll meet you at the apex in just a moment. Okay, so here I am at the apex, and what we want to do here is 1 double, chain 2, and 1 double. Just like that. Let me back up just a little bit. From here, we're going to continue inserting front post double crochets along the side until we get to the last stitch. Let's go ahead and do that. Just like that. So continue doing this, and I shall see you in just a moment at the very last stitch of row number 4. Okay, so I'm at the last stitch, and for this last stitch we need to insert 3 double crochets. So let's go ahead and do that. 1, 2, and 3. And so this is what it looks like after 4 rows. This is the back side. I'll flip this over and show you the front side. Very, very nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to row number 5. Row number 5 is the front post double crochet V-stitch. So let's go ahead and chain 2 and turn our work. Again, the chain 2s do not count as a stitch. It just elevates us to the row. And for this very first stitch, we're going to go ahead and insert 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So from here, we're going to skip the next stitch and go into the 3rd stitch with a front post double crochet V-stitch. So to do this, what we need to do is yarn over, come down and around, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. So that is your traditional front post double crochet. So from here, we're going to chain 1 and then yarn over and come back around that same exact post a second time and do another front post double crochet. So you're just creating a V-stitch, but both of your stitches are front post double crochets. So from here, we're going to skip the next 2 stitches and go into the 3rd stitch here with a front post double crochet V-stitch. So you're going to do your front post double crochet, chain 1, and then do another front post double crochet right where you just came out of. Just like that. Let's do that again. Yarn over, let's skip the next 2, go into the 3rd, around the post of the 3rd stitch there, do our front post double, chain 1, yarn over and come back down and around and do that again. Front post double crochet around that same post. Okay, so from here we're going to skip the next 2, go into the 3rd one there, front post double crochet, chain 1, front post double crochet around that same post. And you should have 1 stitch remaining right here. So from here, we're going to go into our apex here with 1 double, chain 2, 1 double. Chain 2 and 1 double. Now, just a good note to remember, whatever happens on one side has to happen on the other side, okay? So, before we came into the apex, we skipped over that last stitch, which means we need to skip over the 1st stitch and go to the 2nd one to do our front post double crochet V-stitch. So let's yarn over, come down and around that 2nd post there, do our front post double, chain 1, front post double, just like that. From here, we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, go into the 3rd one, and repeat our front post double crochet V-stitch. Just like that. Just continue doing that until we get to the end of the row. I'm going to keep us here since I'm almost there. Skip the next 2, go into the 3rd one, front post double crochet V-stitch. And so we have 1 stitch remaining. We're going to go into that stitch with 3 double crochets. And so this is what it looks like after 5 rows. To move on from here, what we need to do is chain 2 and turn our work. So row 6 is going to be the granny row. So it's going to be a series of granny stitches. So to get started, what we need to do is insert 3 doubles in the very first stitch. 1, 2, and 3. From here, we're going to insert 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches there. 1 and 2, just like that. From here, we're going to go into the V-stitches with the granny stitch, which is 3 double crochets. So we're going to go right into that chain space there and do 3 double crochets. Now this row tends to move very quickly because you're not working into any stitches outside of the ends here. You're going right into the chain spaces with 3 double crochets. 2 and 3. So that's what it looks like. I've done 2 examples for you. Okay, so continue on with that. When you get to the apex, which is up here, it's going to be 1 double crochet, chain 2, 1 double crochet. So continue doing the granny stitch until you get to the apex, and I will meet you right there in just a moment. Okay, so I'm at the apex. I've inserted the granny stitch in all of the V-stitches here. This is what it looks like. It's very, very nice. So from here, we're going to go into the apex with a double, chain 2, and 1 double crochet. Just like that. From here, we're going to jump right into our V-stitches and continue on with the granny stitch. So from here, we're going to jump right into that V-stitch with 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3, just like that. Okay, so continue doing that, and I will meet you at the end of the row right here in just a moment. Okay, so I'm at the end of the row here. I've inserted the granny stitch in all of the V-stitches, and all I have left are these 3 double crochets from the previous row. So what we're going to do is the same exact thing we did on the other side, because remember, what we do on one side has to happen on the other. So we need to insert 1 double crochet in the 3rd from the last and the 2nd from the last stitch. So if you look, there's that cluster of 3 doubles. The first 2 will receive 1 double crochet apiece. Just like that. And then in the last stitch, we're going to go ahead and insert 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3, just like that. I love how nice and straight this edge is. It's very, very nice. Okay, so let me just back the camera up a little bit. Perfect. Okay, so this is the 6-row sequence here. So just to recap, for row 1, we have double crochet. Row number 2, we have double crochet 2 together. Row number 3, we have double crochet. Row number 4, front post double crochet. Row number 5, front post double crochet V-stitch. And then for row number 6, we have the granny stitch. Okay, so I'm going to do one complete reset with you guys, and then I will leave you at that to continue on with the project to create the scarf size of your choice. Okay, so from here we're going to jump back to row number 1 of our 6-row sequence here, and row number 1, as I just mentioned, is double crochet. So from here what we need to do is chain 2 and turn our work, and in the very first stitch we need to insert 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3, just like that. From here, we are to insert 1 double crochet into every stitch of the row. In the apex, it's 1 double crochet, chain 2, 1 double crochet, and we are to insert 1 double crochet all the way down the other side until we get to the last stitch, which will be 3 double crochet. So from here, let's go ahead and begin inserting 1 double into every stitch of the side. Just like that, okay? So continue doing this, and for good measure, I will meet you at the apex in just a moment. Okay, I'm at the apex. Every stitch has an upstairs neighbor. And in the apex, as I mentioned, it gets 1 double, chain 2, and 1 double. From here, we're going to continue doing 1 double in every stitch all the way down until we get to the last stitch. So continue doing that, and I will meet you at the last stitch in just a moment. Okay, so I'm at the end of the row. I've inserted 1 double crochet in every stitch. Every stitch has an upstairs neighbor. In the last stitch here, we're going to insert 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3, just like that. Perfect. So from here, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work, and we're going to move on to row number 2 of our 6-row sequence here. Row number 2 is double crochet 2 together, but first, our very first stitch needs 3 doubles. So let's go ahead and do that. 1, 2, and 3, just like that. So we're going to insert double crochet 2 together all the way up the side until we get to the apex. So just for good measure, I will do the first one with you, and then we will continue on from there. So yarn over, go in the first stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go into the next stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2. You should have 3 loops on the hook. From here, you're going to yarn over and go through all 3, chain 1, and go on to the next stitch, and just repeat the sequence here. There will be a cadence to this. Once you get used to how this goes, it will flow. Yarn over, go in, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go in the next one, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2. So it just becomes very repetitive. So continue doing that, and I will see you once we get to the apex here in just a moment. Okay, so I'm nearing the end of the first side here. I have 2 stitches remaining, and we are going to work that double crochet 2 together in the last 2 stitches of the side, just like this. Chain 1. And then in this apex here, we are going to insert 1 double, chain 2, 1 double. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I just want to show you something. I'm going to make a bunny ear here. Okay, so if we look down here to our very first section where we did double crochet 2 together, I'm going to point it out in just a second. So right here is the row where we did double crochet 2 together. If you notice, we did half of that stitch in the apex and half in the row. Again, it goes to say whatever happens on one side has to happen on the other. So if you notice up here, that was not the case. We actually had enough stitches to do our double crochet 2 together from beginning to the apex. So what's going to happen is that will repeat. So for this repeat, the stitches landed exactly in place. So when that happens, you're going to do 1 double, chain 2, and 1 double. In the next repeat after this one, it's going to be like the first one here, where you're going to have to do half of it in the apex and half of it out of the apex. Okay? So you have 2 examples here, which is one of the reasons why I felt the need to repeat this with you guys a second time. So from here, we're going to continue on doing our double crochet 2 together, just like we did for this first half here. Okay, so whatever happens on this side has to happen on this side. So we're going to go right into the first stitch of the side because we ended with the last stitch. So yarn over, we're going to go into that first stitch and just continue doing our double crochet 2 together for this side. And don't forget, you have to chain 1 before you move on, just like that. Okay, so continue doing that all the way down the side, and I will meet you at the very last stitch right here in just a moment. Okay, so I am at the end of the row here. I have 1 stitch left, and in that last stitch, we're going to go ahead and do 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3, just like that. As you can see, our oblong triangle is growing. It's very nice, and the one thing that you will notice is that our length will be 3 times the length of our width. So if you got a piece of yarn and you measured from the tip to our chain and laid it out long ways, you'll be able to fit that piece of yarn 3 times. Okay? So just a little fun fact there. From here, we are going to go ahead and chain 2 and turn our work. So this is row 3 of our 6-row repeat. And as always, that very first stitch receives 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And as was the case before, we're going to insert 1 double crochet in every stitch and in every chain space. And here you can see them a little better, the chain spaces. So the next 2 stitches receive an upstairs neighbor. 1 and 2. Next door we have a chain space, so 1 double in that chain space. Next door from the chain space we have a double crochet 2 together. So it looks like 2 stitches, but there's only 1 head to that stitch. This is called the head, this whole area right here. 1 head, 1 stitch, even if it has 2 legs. Okay, so next door it's just 1 stitch because it was a chain, and then next door 1 head, 1 stitch. That's a great way to remember that. Okay, so just because it has 2 legs does not mean we put 2 stitches. So you're going to continue doing this all the way down the side. 1 stitch for the chain space, 1 stitch for the stitch, all the way down until we get to the apex. Okay, so continue doing this, and I will see you at the apex in just a moment. Okay, so I am at the apex here. I've inserted an upstairs neighbor to that very last stitch, as you can see. And from here, we need to go into that apex with 1 double, chain 2, and 1 double, just like that. Again, whatever happens on this side has to happen on this side. So that last stitch received an upstairs neighbor, so the very first one will receive one as well. From here, we have a chain. So we're going to insert a double crochet right into that chain space there. Next door, we have a double crochet 2 together. 1 head means 1 stitch, just like that. And then we're going to continue doing this all the way down the side until we get to our last stitch. Okay, so continue inserting 1 double crochet in every head of the stitch and every chain space all the way down. And I will meet you at the end of the row in just a moment. Okay, so I'm at the end of the row. I have 1 stitch remaining, and that 1 stitch will receive 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3, just like that. So this is what we are looking like so far. Very, very nice. Look at that. Super, super nice. I love how this is laying out. Super nice. Okay, so from here we're going to move on to row number 4 for the second time. So row number 4 is the front post double crochet. So let's go ahead and chain 2 and turn our work. As always, that very first stitch receives 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Now the second stitch all the way down until we get to the apex will receive 1 front post double crochet. Just like this. It's safe to assume by now you know what a front post double crochet is. So just for good measure, it's going to be a yarn over, down and around, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, okay? So just continue doing this all the way down the side until we get to the apex here. So I'll meet you there in just a moment, okay? Okay, so I'm at the chain space here, the apex, and in the apex it's going to be 1 double, chain 2, 1 double, chain 2, and 1 double. Okay, so from here we're going to repeat what we just did on this side here. Every stitch all the way down will receive a front post double crochet until we get to the last stitch, okay? So continue doing front post double crochets in every stitch of the side until we get to the last stitch of the row. Just like this, okay? Continue with this, and I shall see you at the end of the row in just a moment. Okay, I'm approaching the end of the row here. I have 1 stitch left, and in that last stitch, we're going to go ahead and insert 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. So this is the back. Very, very nice. Yep, very nice. And this is the front. Let me make a bunny ear here so we don't lose our stitch. Yes, this is very, very nice. I love the ridges. I love the V-stitch. There's a lot to look at. This is very nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to row number 5 of our 6-row repeat. So I'm going to put the yarn back on the hook, and from here we're going to chain 2 and turn our work back to the front side here. So for row number 5, this is going to be a front post double crochet V-stitch, as I mentioned down here. So it's the V-stitch, but both of the stitches are front post double crochets. Okay, so in the very first stitch here, we're going to insert 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. From here, we're going to skip the next stitch, go into that third stitch right here with a front post double crochet. We're going to chain 1 and then go back into that post and do another front post double. From here, we're going to skip the next 2, go into the third one, and repeat that. Front post double, chain 1, front post double, going around that same post. Just like that. It's very simple. Skip the next 2, go into the third one, front post double crochet, chain 1, front post double around that same post. And this is what it should look like. Okay, so continue doing this, skipping every two, go into the third one with a front post double crochet V-stitch until we get to the apex here. Just for good measure, I'm going to do the next one silently. And it should look like that. Okay, so continue doing that until we get to the apex, and I'll meet you there in just a moment. Okay, so here I am approaching the apex. I stopped just beforehand just to show you what this is going to look like. Okay, very, very nice. Okay, so we're going to skip the next two stitches, and I have the very last stitch there that I'm going to work this front post double crochet V-stitch. So front post double crochet, chain one, front post double crochet, just like that. So as you notice down here, I'm going to bring this up and show you the last repeat. That first repeat there, we ended just before the apex. So when that happens, you're going to insert one double, chain two, one double in the apex. If you land on the last stitch, just like this, you're going to hop over the apex. You're not going to add a stitch. So from here, you're going to just chain two and go right to the very first stitch on the other side. And you're going to do a front post double crochet, chain one, front post double crochet in that very first stitch on the other side of the apex. And as you can see, that's what it should look like. Okay? So again, when you land on the very last stitch of the side, when you're doing this row here for row 5, if you land on the last one, you're not going to go into the apex. You're going to hop over it, and you're going to go to the very first stitch and do a front post double crochet V-stitch. Okay? So from here, we're going to skip the next two stitches and go into the third one and do a front post double crochet V-stitch, as was the case on this other side here. Skip two, go into the third one, and repeat. Okay, so continue doing this all the way down the side until we get to the last stitch. I'll meet you right there in just a moment. Okay, so I'm approaching the end of the row here, and this is what we're looking like. Very, very nice. And so in the last stitch, we're going to go ahead and insert 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. Making a bunny ear here so we can look at our work. Very, very nice. Okay. I'm going to bring this up close and show you the texture of the rows. I love how this is looking. Nice work. Okay. So from here, we're going to go to row number 6 for the second time. We're going to chain 2 and turn our work. From here, as always, that very first stitch will receive 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. From here, the next 2 stitches will receive 1 double crochet apiece, just like that. Once you have that completed, we're going to work out of the V stitches. So we're going to insert 3 double crochets in all of the V stitches along the side here. As I mentioned before, this row will tend to go very quickly because you're not working into any stitches outside of the ends. So all through the work there, you're just going into the V-stitch. And as your project grows, this row will be very, very nice to work. Just like this, okay? So continue doing this until you get to the apex. I will meet you there in just a moment. Okay, so here I am at the apex. In the apex, we're going to go 1 double, chain 2, and 1 double. From here, we're going to repeat what we just did. We're going to go into that very first V-stitch with 3 double crochets, and every V-stitch along the way will receive 3 double crochets. So continue with that, and I will meet you towards the end of the row right here in just a moment. Okay, so I have arrived at the end of the row. I just have a few more stitches left here. So in the next 2 stitches of the 3 here at the end, we're going to insert 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So there's 1 double. Let's go next door here and insert a double there. And then in the last stitch right here, we're going to insert 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Let me make a bunny ear here. And let's just take a quick look at our work. So what we are now looking at are 2 full complete 6-row repeats. So total 12 rows here. This here is the back side. Let's flip to the front side here. And so the ridges are more pronounced on this side, as you can see. It's very, very nice. Okay, so to make your project larger, you're just going to continue with the 6-row repeat. Now, the recommended size is 24 inches from chain to apex and 6 feet going long ways. Okay, so let me bring up my completed project here. And this was done with Scarfie, of course. And so this is where I began. I'm just going to bring you all the way to the end here. Now for the very final row, I just did a row of single crochet just to finish off the project here. It's very, very nice. So that is it, my friends. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the like button, leave a comment or 2. I would definitely appreciate the support. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So that is all for this tutorial. And until the next one, take care. Bye-bye.